Noel Grealish on behalf of the regional group.
I have raised various issues relating to law and order with several Taoiseach and Ministers for Justice going back over the years. I have produced figures in this House showing how more than 32,000 crimes a year are being committed by offenders while out on bail, an increase of 41% on the total of 10 years ago and amounting to about 90 crimes every day of the year. Minister, we are paying out more than €75 million a year to pay for free legal aid in criminal cases, very often footing the bill for serial offenders with hundreds of previous convictions who don't have to make any contribution to their defence. And Minister, 4 out of 5 burglars released from prison in Ireland go on to re-offend within a short period, more than half of them within a year of their release. Overall, 3 out of 5 offenders released from custodial sentences re-offend within 3 years, most of them within the first 12 months. Minister, figures I have received from the court services show that people are apparently ignoring fines imposed by the courts in respect of various breaches of the law. Currently, up to 3/4 of the fines imposed by the courts in Ireland are going unpaid. Last year, more than 15 million of the 20 million plus in fines imposed were not paid. And the total value of unpaid fines over the past 5 years amounts to more than €48 million, and that's from the court services. So far this year, more than 43,000 of the 60,000 plus fines imposed by the courts during 2023 are still outstanding. A total value of more than 15.2 million remains unpaid. Many of these fines were imposed in respect of serious offences and were obviously intended to act as a deterrent against further breaches of the law. But the figures I received show that most people simply ignored them. For instance, there were more than 5,700 fines imposed last year on people convicted of public order offences, but only about 1,300 of them were paid. In the past 5 years, a total of 144,000 fines have gone unpaid. In that period, enforcement sanctions were only imposed of 3,300 offenders. And Minister, that's the figures that I have got from the court services that they supplied to me earlier this year. Minister, with over €48 million outstanding in fines for the last 5 years, what does your government propose to do to recoup that money?
Thank you, Deputy Grealish. Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. And the point you make is absolutely correct. There's a lot of fines outstanding there that haven't been paid. And if you're due to pay a fine, well, I think that you should be paying it. If you don't pay it, I think the route is back into court again, as I understand it. And then you and I will be faced with situations where people who didn't pay maybe relatively small fines have been brought back into the courts and maybe facing a custodial sentence. And then, you know yourself what happens then. Sometimes there's a lot of concern about that. But I do agree that we need an effective, an efficient and a robust criminal legal system. And the Department of Justice is currently working to reform how criminal legal aid works. And as part of this work, the Minister has published the general scheme of the Criminal Justice Legal Bill 2023. And this bill will outline the operation of the criminal legal aid scheme. It will introduce strengthened oversight and governance structures, and I can confirm to the Deputy that the general scheme is currently with the Office of Parliamentary Counsel for drafting. And it's important that proper assessments are carried out when deciding if a person can qualify for criminal legal aid. And that's why this new legislation will allow the courts, where the courts might consider it warranted, to refer an applicant to the Legal Aid Board for an assessment of their financial circumstances to be carried out under regulations to be drawn up under the terms of the bill. The board will then be able to recommend that a person can afford to contribute to their legal costs rather than have the entire bill borne by the taxpayer, and a court will make the final decision in the matter. However, I am informed that to restrict access to criminal legal aid for repeat offenders would be found to be unconstitutional. Any unreasonable block on legal aid could give a convicted person an avenue for appeal and delay the outcome of the case even further. To do so would run contrary to the protection of our democracy and the rule the rule of law. So it's important for me to emphasise that the law in relation to bail is comprehensive and has been strengthened on a number of occasions over the years, most recently in 2017. The Department of Justice is currently working on the modernisation of the criminal legal aid and will continue to engage with all relevant stakeholders, including the legal professions, on the modernisation and funding of the legal aid system. Deputy, I take the point you raise, and you know, it is concerning when people don't pay their fines, and I will raise it again with the Minister, but it is something that is a bit of a bugbear of many. When people are fined, that is the penalty, and they should pay their fines.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Grealish.
Minister, a lot of people refusing to pay fines could be repeat offenders who have no respect whatsoever for the law. And I'm sure it's very frustrating for An Garda Síochána, who carry out investigations, bring offenders to court only for them to get off scot-free without paying fines or being punished for their crimes. Minister, we have to show the law-abiding citizens of our country that people who go before the courts and are fined are made pay. Whatever that be, a payment or deduction from their social welfare or wages, they must be made pay for the crimes. And Minister, in your department, if somebody gets overpaid their social welfare payment or a pension, and there's an investigation and they found wrongdoing, then the money is deducted out of their future payments. Every person has a PPS number, and I'm sure a lot of people that go before the courts are either getting wages or getting a social welfare payment. So if they don't pay the fine, after a period of 6 months, it should be deducted out of their social welfare or their salary. Hit them where it hurts, because if they don't pay the fine, they're going to keep re-offending. So, Minister, what measures do your government propose to do to ensure that people who commit quite often serious offences are made pay for their crimes?
Thank you, Deputy Grealish. Minister.
Yeah, Deputy, I agree with you that people should pay. They should absolutely pay the fines that are imposed upon them, and if they don't pay them, well then there should be some way of deducting it, you're right. But if they don't pay their fines, I think they actually could be brought back into court again, because that's an offence if you don't comply with the ruling of the court. Look, they do have certain rights, though, I have to say. Repeat offenders have certain rights as well, even though it can be frustrating to see them appearing time and time again and getting free legal aid. I fully understand that. The European Convention on Human Rights provides that every person charged with a criminal offence is entitled to defend themselves in person or through legal assistance of their own choosing, or if they have insufficient means to pay for legal assistance, to be given it free when the interests of justice so require. As mentioned, the criminal legal aid scheme must operate with due regard to these rights. Any unreasonable block of legal aid could give a convicted defendant an avenue for appeal or prohibition of the prosecution.
Thank you, Minister.
Look, Deputy, I absolutely take on board what you're saying, and I will certainly raise the matter again with the Minister for Justice, because it's only right and proper that if a fine is imposed, that you pay the fine, you pay your dues back to society for whatever reason it was imposed on you. You should pay it.
Thank you very much. We move now to the